everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video we're in Hampshire visiting Titchfield Abbey. The abbey is situated near the town of Fareham and close enough to the city of Southampton to the left and Portsmouth to the right. Architecturally you'll fall in love with its stately and grand appearance, but this now fortified manor house was once built on the ruins of a Premonstratensian monastery and is rumoured to be the site in which Shakespeare may have first performed some of his early plays. So join us today whilst we walk in the remains of Titchfield Abbey. The existence of a medieval abbey at Titchfield probably owes as much to its proximity to the sea as anything else. The village of Titchfield lies at the mouth of the River Meon, which empties out onto the waters of the Solent. At the time of the Domesday Book, Titchfield had both a market and unusually a toll. The toll would suggest that goods were being brought ashore at the Meon estuary and then transported inland. It's thought that the area was probably made wealthy through trades. Stepping inside and through the beautiful, outstanding lattice-carved door, you'll be quite amazed at what hides behind. This room was once part of a church and built across the original nave of the monastic church, which was later transformed into a porter's lodge with principal apartments above, indicated by the impressive Tudor architecture and detailing that you can see when you look around. What I thought stands out when looking above are the huge oriel windows and the wooden door. What an impression it must have made to its guests coming to watch a play or enjoy a feast with some wild entertainment that it was commonly known for. The room in which we enter inside is part of the gatehouse range. It was converted from an abbey to a grand new courtyard house, with the reusing of many of its original monastic buildings. What's interesting and impressive about this room is not only the sheer size of it, but also the fact that just above, it's thought that it might have been the very place that Shakespeare may have used it as a small theatre to show off his talents and recite his poems. On the ground floor, like many houses, abbeys and castles, it would have been used purely for storage. This means that the other floors above would have been lodgings, and you might notice the various square Tudor windows. These were actually originally lancet windows that you would typically see in a church. Several of the large once church windows would be rebuilt as the gorgeous brick fireplaces that we can spot around the room. This would have driven so much warmth and light into the building, and you can only speculate just how fancy this house might have been. The area continued as a place of special religious significance with the founding of the medieval abbey in 1232 by Peter de Roches, the Bishop of Winchester, who was a powerful politician, churchman and government official who founded several religious houses, including nearby Netley Abbey that is also in Hampshire, and a place that we have visited in the past. The link will be down below in the description box if you're interested. Titchfield was part of the Premonstratensian order, whose monks were also known as white canons due to the colours of their habits. The abbey in its heyday was wealthy and owned many thousands of acres of land. It had its own farm buildings and a series of fish ponds, which can still be seen alongside the abbey. Again, the proximity of Titchfield to the southern coastline meant that it was a convenient place for important people to convene and supply before crossing the waters over to Europe. On the 23rd of April in 1445, King Henry VI was married here to Margaret of Anjou when she was just 15. It was a highly political marriage with a great deal at stake. A little later, in 1538, as a result of the dissolution of the monasteries, the estate would pass on to Thomas Wriothesley, the first Earl of Southampton. He decided to completely redevelop the buildings quickly, and by 1542 he had converted the monastic buildings into the residence now known as Place House. He added the grand gatehouse that we entered inside, the turrets were built, and the cloisters became the courtyard of the mansion. Thomas had immense influence, and the house received its fair share of royal and very important guests. Some of those guests would include Edward VI, Elizabeth I and Charles I, with his Queen Henrietta Maria. Richard II and Queen Anne would also stay at the Abbey in 1393, and Henry V was a guest on his way to Southampton to invade France in 1415. Place House survived up until 1781, when most of the building work was demolished. A ruin such as the former medieval abbey here at Titchfield contradicts its historical importance. History in Hampshire doesn't get much better than this. Thomas's grandson Henry III, Earl of Southampton, had a real passion for theatre, which in the 1590s inevitably involved the famed William Shakespeare. The bard was by no means the only talented author around, and he desperately needed a patron. He successfully buttered up the young Earl with some dedicated poetry, and there is speculation that Shakespeare became a schoolmaster in the village of Titchfield for a period of time. And it is also believed that several of Shakespeare's plays were performed here first at Place House. The plays were possibly shown in a private apartment beside the gatehouse for his sponsors' most distinguished guests, with some of Shakespeare's most famous plays including Romeo and Juliet and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Whether the partnership of William and Henry was simply one of creativity or might delve further into the realms of romance, it has been documented in several sources that the first performance of the bard's Love Labour's Lost took place in Titchfield on the 2nd of September in 1591. As the Middle Ages progressed, considerable investment was made to upgrade the domestic buildings to meet rising living standards, and it is more than likely that by the mid-14th century they were rather luxurious, as evidenced by the elaborate polychrome floor tiles, which at the time would have been an expensive and high-status product, which is still seen today all over the site, although in the winter months and at the time of this filming, the mosaics and floor tiles are covered over with sand to protect them from the frost and elements. These medieval tiles survived as they lay undiscovered underneath the courtyard of the Tudor mansion, until excavations in the 1920s would unearth them. They are very similar to other nearby abbeys, suggesting that they were all made in the late 13th century by the same team of tile makers. Though a great deal has been destroyed, there are still major remains of the abbey and Place House to be seen. In fact, the pulling down of Place House has revealed more of the abbey than would otherwise be visible. There are slight remains of the rest of the monastic buildings all around the cloister, although the abbey plan is marked out on the ground. Inside this room, it would have once been the chapter house, the room in which the monks would meet daily. On the ground are the tomb slabs of some previous abbots. This doorway is beautiful though, and framed internally by elegant columns of Purbeck marble. The nave of the church still stands to its full height, and with it the newly constructed gatehouse. These ruins show you the outlines of the red Tudor brick fireplaces, the impressive chimneys, and those large Tudor windows created to show off their taste and affluence. This was where the domestic apartments of the new Tudor house were created, and lived in by the lord of the house and its guests. Titchfield Abbey is a true gem in Hampshire, with fascinating links to royalty and Shakespeare. Its well-preserved ruins reflect its undeniably rich history, and is without a doubt an ideal spot for history buffs, or for those who simply enjoy picturesque settings. So that's it for this week, and we really hope that you've enjoyed watching and joining us walk around Titchfield Abbey. If you have, please be sure to hit that like button, click the subscribe button and leave us a comment. We want to say a big thank you to those who support the channel, and if you'd like to get involved in helping us grow, please have a look at our links and ways to join us on our journey. So we'll see you in the next one. Till next time.